few seconds. There.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you for a special and unique OC3PR. Unlike our typical webinars where we explore a medical or a management issue, today we will be asking you to do something a little bit different, yet equally, if not of greater importance for yourself, for colleagues, for friends and family, for all. We will be asking you to take the time to reflect on the last year. On today, which is now a national day of observance because of COVID-19. How an individual processes grief or loss is somewhat unique to them. Not everyone is the same. It is, however, important that we do this reflection as it is necessary for us to go forward. Today might be challenging to some. There may be a wide range of emotions. You might experience something different than your usual norms. It may be uncomfortable, but that's okay. You may not be ready for it today. You may need to come back to it in the future. The goal, however, is not to acquire knowledge, but rather to explore emotions, to give ourselves and others a chance to pause, to feel grief and loss, so we can then move forward together to a more hopeful and bright future. When I reflect on this last year, it certainly has been a whirlwind of emotions and experiences. I've seen many things, many sad and difficult, but some uplifting and inspiring. The way our critical care community has come together has truly been amazing. I, however, feel sadness and a sense of loss, not so much for me, but for our kids, for friends, and especially for my patients. My father passed away in February of 2020. I and my family were fortunate to have had the opportunity to come together, to say goodbye, to share our grief and our loss. Ironically, I now feel doubly blessed, as had it happen only a few weeks later, that shared experience my family had would not have been allowed to occur because of COVID. Indeed, for me, one of the most troubling and difficult things to have witnessed, to have experienced, is seeing our patients denied the opportunity to be together with their families during some of their scariest and most difficult times of their lives. Even worse, when some of our patients passed away, they only had us healthcare providers being there. It is something I wish could have been different for them. For all of us, this is our first pandemic. History teaches us that societies move on from such traumatic or pivotal experiences. They come together, share their stories, maybe share a few drinks, shed a tear or two, but together they reflect. So today, in this virtual way, we invite you to join us, to take a chance and try something new as we share some time together to reflect on the last year. As this is something that I have no experience in, I'm delighted to have with me Dr. Andrea Frolic here to help guide us today. For those who are not familiar with Andrea, she is the director of the program for ethics and care ecologies, their peace program at Hamilton Health Science. She has worked as an ethicist for over 20 years, and during this pandemic, she has functioned as the ethics lead for the West region of Ontario Health. She's also been our ethics consultant to the critical care table. One of her primary areas of interest is using neuroscience and trauma-informed practices to support psychological safety and resilience in trauma-exposed workplaces, such as our hospitals. So before I turn it over to you, Andrea, I would invite all of our listeners to turn off their phones, close off their email and other apps, and to give themselves permission to experience something different. There will be no Q&A today, just an opportunity to reflect, an opportunity for all of us to do one thing: remember to pause. Andrea?
Thank you so much, Dave, for the invitation to be here, and to all of you for taking the time to pause and reflect today on this day of national observance. And let me say thank you as well for the cost of caring. I know that this year has been costly to you and to your families, your loved ones. So thank you for your service to our communities. And I do hope that you can give yourself permission to be here now to honor these costs, but to do so in a community of support, even if we're virtually connected today. So in contemplating this invitation to pause, someone I love shared with me an analogy from sailing. After you've been at sea for a long time or after a big storm, it's easy to get disoriented. So sailors have this practice. It's called dead reckoning. What you do is you lower the sails and you let the boat come to a complete stop. Then you use a process of triangulation with 3 different vectors and a distant landmark. The place where these 3 vectors intersect is where you are. And from that reckoning, you set a new course. So this day of national observance is kind of dead reckoning. And yes, we will take a moment to honor those who have died from COVID, some of whom you may have known and cared for. But this is also an invitation to take stock of where you are, where you have come, and therefore to set a new course for our future together. I've worked in healthcare my entire career, and I know healthcare workers are intrinsically resilient. You have to be resilient to care for the sick and the suffering and the most vulnerable and the sickest of our entire system, which is what you do in critical care. But sometimes resilience can harden into an armor that we carry around to shield ourselves. And if you were like me, then you were trained to suppress your grief. We've been told through most of our training that grief is weak, that it's unprofessional. It gets in the way of getting the real work done. And because of this sort of professional shaming around our grief, most of us have spent years avoiding it. So opening up to it can feel really scary. Grief can feel like a monster that will eat us alive if we let it out of the cage. But in fact, grief is not a pathology. It's not a monster. It's a natural, psychological, and physiological response to processing the loss of something we care about. And it is a gateway to deeper connection to ourselves, to our families, and to our deeper meaning and purpose. And so today I'm inviting you, as Dave has, to meet your grief wherever you are and however you are today. So I'm going to lead you through a reflective practice that is informed by the neuroscience of trauma and stress and post-traumatic growth. And hopefully it will allow you to reflect on the losses you've experienced during COVID, but also tap into those innate resources that help you to process loss that you might experience day by day. And these are resources you can also share with your teammates. This might feel a little strange or a little new, as Dave said. It's okay to challenge yourself. But if you start to feel overwhelmed, it's also okay to kind of step back, take a bit of a break, take a cleansing breath, stand up, stretch, etc. So kind of challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone. But if you find yourself being overwhelmed, it's okay to step back and breathe and take a break. And you might also be feeling numbness today. Numbness is a really normal and healthy coping mechanism that we use in times of stress, and it can get us through very overwhelming circumstances. And like I said, our professional culture actually praises people who are numb. We're numbly working through incredible trauma and loss day by day. And we're praised for holding it together through this exhaustion. So if you feel numb, just accept that and do this practice in a state of numbness. That's okay. It's all good. So let's jump in to just touch in with how you are feeling today. If you want to close your eyes, and it's safe for you to do that, I would invite you to close your eyes. If you want to have a soft gaze, look out the window or just look down at the floor, do whatever is comfortable for you. But the intention is to draw your awareness inside you. Your grief lives within you. So we have to draw our attention inward. We can't find the answer and we can't process what we've experienced by looking outside of ourselves. So I'm going to close my eyes. You can join me. So take a moment to just feel inside. Notice how your body is holding your day today. Maybe start by feeling your feet on the floor or the chair beneath you holding you. You are incredibly lucky to have a body, this body that carries you day to day through your work. You guys know better than anyone how fragile and precious, but also resilient our bodies are. So how is yours feeling today? No need to change it or judge it, just feeling in. And maybe tap into some awareness of your breath. Feel the fullness of the in-breath, how it gives you this sense of expansiveness, aliveness, and the out-breath, how it invites a kind of letting go and letting go. And if your mind's like all over the place, like my mind often is, then what I usually do is I try to breathe in the word here and breathe out the word now. Here, now. And that gives me an anchor to come back to this present moment. So as we breathe quietly and connect with our own experience, we're going to start our reflection by taking a moment of silence to honor the lives lost to COVID over the past year. Over 22,000 Canadians have died from this virus. That's probably an underestimate. And each of these people we have lost has left behind friends, family, caregivers who mourn them. Some of you may be thinking right now of a COVID patient that you cared for and whom you lost. So in this moment of quiet, I invite you to honor all of those we have lost and all of those grieving with us today across the country and around the world. You can keep your eyes closed if you wish for this entire practice, or you can open them again. But as we ease into our own reflection of our own losses, I'm going to read you a poem. It's a poem I memorized after one of my close friends died in 2018, and it's really carried me through some really dark times. It's by David White. It's called The Well of Grief. I'm going to read it twice because it's kind of delicious and it's worth reading twice. Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, clear and cold, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. The well of grief is always here among us. Loss is an intrinsic part of our human experience. You can't live on this planet more than a few years without losing something. Loss of love, loss of dreams, loss of innocence, loss of trust, and of course, over time, the loss of friends and pets and family members who die or leave us. So today you are invited to explore the well of grief, however that feels right for you today. For some, you'll be willing just to notice there is a well, but you have no desire to approach it. That's cool. Some of you are willing to get close to it, maybe peer over the edge, but that's as close as you want to get. Totally fine. Some of you are ready to dip a toe, and some of you are ready to plunge right in. However you want to relate to this well, there is no right or wrong way. And this is a well that you can come back to. In fact, you will come back to over the course of your life, because loss is inevitable and grief is a lifelong practice. We practice again and again as we lose and as we recover from loss. So allowing ourselves to grieve has many benefits. It breaks down isolation, We experience common humanity. We can experience catharsis, that kind of beautiful inner shower you get when you have tears, when you have a good cry, the kind of spaciousness that opens up in your chest. We can feel more connected to people we've lost, and we can have new insights or wisdom, those little round coins at the bottom of the well. And extending this metaphor of the well, wells are not just holes in the ground. You don't just fall in and drown in them. They actually lead to underground streams. And if you follow them underground, they surface in beautiful lakes and waterfalls and springs, and eventually they flow into an ocean. This is the path of post-traumatic growth, following this flow, letting the wisdom reveal itself, and the way that this well of grief connects us to the wider human story of being both broken and healing. So now let's take some time to approach the well as you feel ready. And we're going to do that first by enumerating the losses that you want to remember today, by also giving ourselves a chance to do so in a safe place, and then activating some of these resources that are always with us that can help us to manage and process and experience our grief in a constructive way. So if you want to do this with your eyes closed, you can. You can have a pen and paper, you can doodle, you can sketch, you can journal, you can write a list, you can look out the window. Just do what feels right and safe for you in this moment. So again, if you want to, you can close your eyes. But my invitation now is to take another moment of silence and to do your inventory of loss. Quick as you can, without judgment, without editing, just write down the losses from COVID from this past year that you've experienced. And if you don't have a pen and paper handy, just allow the thoughts of the losses you've experienced to flow through your mind, sort of like clouds in the sky coming across the horizon. They might be big losses, like the loss of a family member. They might be small losses, like the loss of a party or celebration you're used to enjoying in your neighborhood. Each of these small losses also carries a measure of sorrow. They all matter. And so now pick a loss that you want to focus on today. Something that feels vivid for you right now. And if 0 is not traumatizing at all, you don't really feel the loss, and 10 is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, pick something in the kind of 5 to 6 range, something that has emotional content, but that doesn't feel overwhelming to hold today. And just trust that whatever loss is coming into your mind right now is the one that wants to be held. You don't have to second guess that. So it's really helpful to process loss from a safe place. And so, again, if you want to, you can close your eyes or look out the window or have a soft gaze on the floor in front of you. Just come into stillness for a moment. You're holding this loss in your heart and in your mind, but settling into awareness with your body, feeling your feet on the floor and the chair underneath you. Breathing in and breathing out as you hold this loss in your mind. And now using your imagination to come to a place where you feel calm and peaceful and safe. It may be a place you've been to before, or it may be a place that you can imagine, but try to create this safe place vividly in your mind right now. For me, it is always a beach. I have a beautiful beach in Hamilton I always go to. That's my safe place that I imagine when I'm feeling agitated. So find your safe place right now. And look around that safe place. What do you see? What are the colors, textures, shapes? What's the temperature of the air on your skin? What are the sounds? What are the smells? Just let your imagination really carry you to that safe place and let your imagination hold you in safety in that place. And now, while you're in this peaceful and safe place, bring to mind that loss that wants to be held and noticed by you today. What impact has this loss had on your life? How has this loss affected you? How has it affected your relationships, your work? How has this loss affected your body, your soul, your sense of self? How is this loss occupying space in your life? It's here now, it wants your attention. What does it want to say? What is it speaking to you? And in what way is this loss vivid today? What are you grieving about this loss? And as you hold awareness of this loss gently in this safe place, notice any feelings arising. I often feel feelings behind my sternum or in my belly, sometimes between my eyes. The usual place that you feel feelings in your body, check in there. What do you feel? It might not be sorrow. It might be rage. It might be anxiety. It might be emptiness. Whatever it is, just notice. There's no right or wrong. And how do you feel this loss in your body? Do you feel tension in your shoulders or in your back, a clenching in the belly, fatigue? We carry our grief in our tissues. They don't exist outside of us. So where's your body helping you to hold this loss today? And maybe you're feeling tears come into your eyes, or maybe not. Tears are this beautiful physiological reset where our body releases oxytocin, and it actually invites the body to breathe more deeply. So if tears are here, please welcome them. And maybe deepen the breath a little bit as you process this loss and honor it and hold it. Breathing in the nourishment of the in-breath and that letting go, tension release of the out-breath. And maybe allowing that breath to invite you to a place of stillness inside. A place of silence inside of you. You know, with loss, there's no words. Nothing anyone has ever said to me when I've lost something big has really helped. In fact, sometimes the things people say to make themselves better really hurt. But what has been really healing in my own losses is just silence, the silent, tender, compassionate attention of another person who just honors the sacredness of my loss. So you get to honor the sacredness of your loss just by holding the silence and stillness, your own experience. Silence is so expansiveness. It's so big. It can hold all of the losses of our lives. And as you reflect on and envelop this loss and this grief in the embrace of your body and in the embrace of your silence and your tears, perhaps you want to actually allow your own tender touch to offer you solace. So again, the neuroscientists tell me that when we touch our own bodies with our hands, that it feels, our body responds physiologically in the same way as if someone else were touching us. So I often put a hand over my heart when I'm feeling very emotional, because that warmth, that pressure on my heart makes me feel companioned and calm. So you might put a hand over your heart, You might put your hands together in your lap. You might hold your face or wrap your arms around yourself in a gentle hug. I know it sounds a little odd, but it actually really works. Our bodies respond physiologically by releasing tension when we hold ourselves with tenderness. So just see what might feel right for you right now, offering yourself compassionate touch. And as you offer yourself companionship and solace through your touch, through your calm, through your silence in your safe place, I invite you to imagine and speak into your own ear the words that you most long to hear right now. We have this inner critic that we carry with us all the time that's always talking in our ears about how we're not good enough and how we should be better. But what are the words that you long to hear whispered in your own ear? For me, I'm very self-critical, so I like to whisper in my own ear the words, Andrea, you are enough. Maybe you want to hear the words, I am loved. I am broken, but I am healing. I am enough. And these words are not intended to fix or make better, but simply, again, dousing ourselves with that good feeling of companioning ourselves with tenderness and compassion in our loss. So what are the words you long to hear? And speak those to your own ear. And although most of us are separated, some of you may be with your team in a conference room somewhere, but most of us are alone right now, companioning ourselves and bearing witness to our own losses in our imagination, in our Zoom rooms, in our homes or in our offices at work. But in fact, we are not alone. We are here together. And see if you can feel the togetherness of us on this YouTube channel right now, on this webinar. Or if you can't feel that, just imagine that you are held by concentric circles of care, people who care about you and your loss, your family, your friends. See if you can feel their care for you, your teammates, your colleagues near and far. And widening that circle, to your critical care colleagues across this whole country who are grieving today and observing this day of remembrance. And to the millions of COVID workers all over the world who are battling this monster with you. You are connected in a web of care. You are part of a movement that holds you and encourages you and supports you. So now, given the loss that you have spent time with, what does this tell you about what you value? Notice the fact that you're experiencing this thing as a loss. It means you really value it. If you notice the loss of connection to friends, this might point to how much you care about friendship. So in your own grieving, what do you notice, what you love, what matters to you? The small round coins at the bottom of the well of grief. What are you taking away? What are you taking away from this time of reflection? What do you now know? What is the wisdom that you've been connected to? Or the parts of your experience that you didn't know were there? So taking a moment to congratulate yourself for taking this time to reflect, for taking a risk, plunging into that well in whatever way you could, and carrying with you these small round coins of insight and wisdom and connection and care. And now taking 3 more conscious breaths in and out. And on the 3rd exhalation, I invite you, if your eyes are closed, to come back into this virtual circle. Now, I walked you through a grief practice that I use a lot for myself and with the teams I support. And because we think of grief as a scary monster, I call it the rabbit's practice, because what could be more cuddly and less intimidating than a rabbit? And rabbit stands for reaching out, feeling connected to others, asking for support, affirmation, the words of tenderness and care that we can speak into our own ears, our breath, caring for our bodies, using our imagination to create a safe space, allowing our tears to flow, just recognizing that's our body trying to physiologically reset and release stress and tension and trauma. And then just welcoming silence, our own silence to process our loss, but also just greeting with warm-hearted, tender, and compassionate silence the losses of the people we work with and care about. So this rabbits practice is always with you. You can tap into these resources anytime, and you can integrate them into the flow of work when you're at the unit, at the critical care unit, and with your colleagues who are also experiencing losses. So I just wanted to really say thank you for being with me today, for taking a risk, for inviting me into your community to share with you and to reflect with you on this day of observance. I thank you for all you have done this entire year and how you will continue to show up for your community day after day. And I hope now that you can take good care of yourself the rest of your day, maybe reach out to a friend, go for a walk, or do something to really cherish yourself and pamper yourself as you continue your reflection on this day. And I'm going to close with this beautiful poem by Rashani Ray. I hope these words speak to you as they have to me. There is a brokenness out of which comes the unbroken, a shatteredness out of which blooms the unshatterable. There is a sorrow beyond all grief, which leads to joy, and a fragility out of whose depths emerges strength. There's a hollow space too vast for words, through which we pass with each loss, out of whose darkness we are sanctioned into being. There is a cry deeper than all sound, whose serrated edges cut the heart as we break open to the place inside, which is unbreakable and whole while learning to sing. So thank you for taking time to do your reckoning for yourself and with your community. And I wish you well as you learn to sing again.
Andrea, I just want to thank you for this. I truly know how important this is for all of us. I appreciate its significance, and I do believe and I do hope it has helped others who have participated or will participate. For those of you who want to share with us their thoughts, you can certainly reach out to us by email, which is info@ccso.ca. The links that you see on the screen now and other information we have shown will be available at the CCSO website. We again hope that we have helped begun a process for all of you, process for all of us to reflect on what has happened over the last year. With that, I thank you again, Andrea, and we will leave you with one final thing to help all of us remember to pause.